Welcome back to the program. Glad you're with us. Frank Frangie with you. Let's complete our tour now around the AFC South, what the OTAs look like. My pal Mark Vandermeer is the terrific play-by-play voice of the Houston Texans. Fresh back from a European vacation. What's up, Mark? How was the trip?
I'm a little jet lagged, Frank, but that's a luxury problem, so I'm okay. So what did they say about the Titans and the Colts? Who'd you have on?
Yeah, we had Mike on. Mike came on to talk. Mike Keith, of course, and then Matt Taylor, the play-by-play guys. That's kind of our little play-by-play group. And it was very interesting. The really interesting thing is that there's so much question at quarterback throughout the division other than here, you know?
Yeah.
Mike seems to think, it was kind of interesting, Mark. Mike seems to think Ryan Tannehill will not just start the season, but he'll be the quarterback the entire season. So not much. So he doesn't think Will Levis is going to be the guy. Matt Taylor, it didn't say this, but you could tell he thinks that Anthony Richardson's got a great chance to start out of the gate, which segues nicely to you. Tell me about C.J. Stroud, and tell me about – I loved him in college, bro. I really did. Is he going to be the guy? Are you comfortable with him being the guy? Well, what's the early reviews after OTAs?
Well, I just think that when you look at a team like the Titans, Tannehill is a really good option, and they could surprise a lot of people. I mean,
Right.
Frank, you know how close they were to actually maybe winning the division that final night. And the NFL is always close, but that's how close it was as they were trying to stop that tremendous slide they had. But with the Texans situation, you have Davis Mills here, who has 25 starts under his belt, and everyone overreacted. By everyone, I mean a lot of fans and media, maybe not everyone, I'm generalizing,
Sure.
to Davis Mills getting a lot of number one reps along with Stroud. They were kind of flipping back and forth during OTAs and minicamp. And I think it's because the team has a lot invested in Mills. Third-round draft choice from 2021. Like I said, 25 starts. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Not that they're thinking of him, and I can't speak for them, but my interpretation is, hey, it's not like they think Mills is the franchise quarterback, but he's certainly worth continuing to develop. Meanwhile, C.J. Stroud comes in, and there's a certain electricity in the air when he gets in the huddle, when he's under center, when he's in the shotgun, when he's making plays. I've seen him in situations at OTAs where he's really executed well, Frank, and he makes some really good throws. He makes the kind of throws where a lot of quarterbacks aren't going to attempt that, right? And I think the great ones, and I'm not saying he's great yet,
Right.
but he has some of that moxie, though, where, hey, I'm going to put this ball in there and let the receiver make a play. And it's, whoa, that guy looked covered to me, but you put the ball in there so perfectly, you enabled your receiver to make a play. A lot of quarterbacks don't make certain throws because it looks too dangerous. Well, he's doing the right thing. Let me see what I can do here. It's OTAs. It's early. And he's being coached up well by Bobby Slowick, this offensive coordinator. So it's fun to watch so far.
I think he's really mature. My guess, I say that I haven't seen him play in the NFL, but I think watching him in college, I did the Ohio State Maryland game, Mark. We had the off week there, so I went up and did that game, and I think he's really mature as first year guys go. I mean, you've been around him now. You've been to the OTAs. Do you get that same read?
Yes, absolutely. And he's a great teammate. Now, I know that gets overstated in this league, but he is a communicator. He's going up to Laramie, asking him questions, saying things. If a receiver drops the ball, he goes right up to the guy, hey, no problem, let's get the next one, that kind of thing. He's showing those leadership traits that you want to see early on, making the job his. Now, I don't know how they're going to handle it the first few days of training camp because, like I said, they were going back and forth between Mills and he, but we'll see. Eventually, he's going to take over. You drafted him number 2 for a reason, and we'll see how it goes from there. But I like what I see so far, like I said, and he's got a lot of playmakers to work with. I think this offense can be really good for a first year or a developing quarterback, Frank, because there are a lot of places to put the football. There's always somewhere to go with it. Look at what happened with Mr. Irrelevant last year in San Francisco. I'm not predicting that kind of success here necessarily, but I'm just saying that for a quarterback who hasn't played a lot, this is a good offense to develop in.
Mark Vandermeer with us, play-by-play voice of the Texans. He's been around, and it's hard to tell on linemen because no one's hitting anybody, but have you spent much time around Will Anderson? Do you get a feel for him? Because, boy, I thought he was an awfully good college player too, boy.
Yeah, we had Nick Casario on, and he said they had to ask him to dial it back a bit because it's OTAs. And, you know, when you get rookies in here, they don't know, right? They especially somebody who's been working for Nick Saban, and spring practice in college is different than OTAs in the NFL. The hitting is extremely limited. It's nil, right? You can't do anything. He had a couple of plays where he got into the backfield so fast. And you know how OTAs are, Frank, where It would have been a sack, and it might have been a very violent one, but we're not going to sack the quarterback in OTAs. It's our own teammate. But he had some moments like that where everyone just sort of gasped. And that was really encouraging and fun. But they have a lot of guys up front. I mean, this team, we all saw them play last year. We know that there were some close games and close losses. There always are in this league. But look, the Texans beat the Jags in Jacksonville last year earlier on, and you know what they had up front. Now they're still playing a 4-3, but it's not Lovie Smith's. It's D'Amico Ryans, and now he's got Sheldon Rankins up there and some other players as well. So Will Anderson among that group, it's going to be interesting.
Well, what is the reaction to D'Amico Ryans? He's so well thought of as a coordinator in San Francisco and was one of the hottest candidates to become a head coach. You've been around him some now. What's the vibe?
Well, just think of one of the most beloved players you've ever had in franchise history now coaching the team.
Right.
And what that does, now it's the off season, right? We're not playing games yet, but relative to the off season itself, and I've been here for all of them, this is maybe, I don't know, I can't rank it any lower than third most exciting and interesting and invigorating off season. Now, relative to the off season, but the hiring of D'Amico provided a tremendous spark. It brought all the former players back in the fold because the Texans were very poor on the field the last few years, and a lot of other issues that some got over and underreported and misinterpreted. But still, it was just a bad situation all the way around from the outside looking in. And then you get D'Amico here, and you have Nick Caserio picking players, and everybody feels so much better. It feels like a family, everybody coming together at once. Season ticket sales are up, and then you have draft night, which was like a playoff win. It just felt that way, Frank. You had 8,000 people at the draft party going crazy for C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson and the rest of them. So it's fun right now, and I can't wait to see what happens when we get between the lines.
You know, it's funny, Mark, and we've had this conversation here, and again, I'm not trying to pile on Urban Meyer because people have probably done that enough. We all have, but it got so low here 2 years ago that it could only go up. Which is why this Doug Peterson culture, which is so good and so respected here, felt even better because you had kind of hit rock bottom. Well, I don't know if the Texans hit rock bottom, but you had two guys there for 1 year. Lovey was there for 1 year. David Culley was there for 1 year. Very well-liked guys. We know at the end of the Bill O'Brien era that it was hard for a lot of folks within that building. Is it almost the same thing that it got so low that all of a sudden D'Amico comes around and everyone's on the same page and it makes the high, when you get to the high, seem even higher?
Yeah, because I think when you hired Lovie Smith last year, look, Lovie's a great coach, and he's got a lot of wins in this league, but it didn't feel like the long-term solution, let's be honest, right? Now you feel like, all right, we've got the long-term program here, and I think everyone, I hate to use the word patience, but we'll have a little bit more patience, and I hope they win more than 3 games, and I really think they will.
Right.
But it'll be on the way up, right? Everything's on the way up right now. Look at the players they have. I look at this defense, and I'm thinking, look at this back end. You know, you signed Jimmy Ward. You had Petrie last year who had 5 picks, and let's see where it goes, right? Derek Stingley Jr. So I think that they have a lot of assets, and with D'Amico here coaching the squad, they're really going to surprise a lot of people, and people feel that optimism, and for good reason. I think it's based in reality here, this optimism that the fan base has and the media and everybody else, including me.
I agree with you on the secondary. By the way, I think the secondary might be really good. I mean, if Will Anderson's as good as he could be, you know, I agree with you on the secondary.
Let me tell you about somebody else here, because there's a lot of Alabama influence on this team, right? You have Will Anderson, Christian Harris, who really shined toward the end of the year at a big pick in the Tennessee game, and they needed that one bad. And then you add Henry To'oTo'o, who doesn't get a lot of ink necessarily, but he's been flashing in OTAs. I think this guy's going to find his way onto the football field. They all of a sudden have some luxury depth problems. Dare I say that, Frank? But it feels like it, and we'll see how it is. You know how injuries and other things come into play during training camp, but I like their situation in the front seven as well as the back end of this D.
What do you think of the division? We're more excited about this division in our town than we've been in, gosh, Mark, I can't tell you how long, even more than we were going into the 18 season. So how do you see the division?
Well, it's so unpredictable. I could make a case for the Titans being good again, right? Derrick Henry's still there, and I know what they're missing, offensive line and everything, but how many times have we seen teams sort of put it together? And when you have a running back like that and assets like that running the football, along with a steady quarterback like Ryan Tannehill, you can do some things. I could make a case for them being good. I could also make a case for them being bad. Same thing with the Colts, right? You could see Jonathan Taylor, and what if things just sort of start to develop with them? We're all playing the NFC South, and those teams have question marks as well. So I think that this whole division is so unpredictable, except for you figure the Jaguars are going to be really good coming out of the gate based on what you saw second half last year. But we all know it, and they know it better than anybody, that you got to go out and prove it. And now they are the hunted. Every week it's going to be beat the Jags. I did a top 5 road games article on HoustonTexans.com, and I said the Jaguars are the number 1 road destination. And you know what? For the Jacksonville area, for Duval County, I said this is the top road trip to go for a visit to, because Jacksonville's underrated as a place to go. But I want to see the Texans go down there and do their thing.
That's exactly right, and it is a great place. Glad you said that. Final thing, give me a guess. And I know we're guessing here, but you said at some point C.J. Stroud is going to be the quarterback. Do you think there's a chance he's this quarterback opening day? Do you think it's a quarter of the way through the season? I know we're wild guessing. You don't know, but what is your guess?
My gut feel, and look, I don't know anything from the coaches. They're not going to say it. Maybe they have no idea, but this is just me saying this. Yeah. I would say that he'll find his way into the starting lineup sooner rather than later. I think opening day there's a good shot of it. I think that he's shown me, if they're going to come ask me, Frank, and D'Amico doesn't come to my office too often asking for player advice, but if they're going to ask me, I think he's shown a lot, and we're all waiting for the preseason games to see what they show there. The Texans will have joint practices against the Saints and Dolphins. Those are really valuable, as you know. So I think he'll find a way to come out on top. But I like Mills, too, in the sense that he's improving. There's still a higher ceiling for Mills to reach here. And I'm not saying as the starter, franchise guy here, whatever, but I think he can get a lot better, and that only helps everybody. And you still have Case Keenum here, who you know can play well enough to win you some games. So I hate using the word deep because it just sounds kind of pompous from the Texans standpoint. I mean, he only won 3 games last year, but they've got some players here now. I mean, you look around and the roster's a whole lot better, so that makes things very enticing as you head for the campaign.
Mark Vandermeer, the terrific play-by-play voice of the Houston Texans. Glad you're back, Mark. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it, man. Take care.
Thanks, Frank. Always a pleasure.